What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. Before we get out of here, I want to spend about 10-15 minutes on the middle tier in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So this is a total shit show. Sacramento's lost 4 in a row. They're now the 12 seed, but like you just know that they're going to have a stretch where they win 8 out of 9 games, and they've been devastated by injuries, and it's been De'Aaron Fox just playing 1-on-5 every game. Even Portland is scrappy and difficult. Like, as much as we talk trash about the Pelicans, they will get healthier at some point in the season and rip off some wins at some point. San Antonio is like, it's the classic home road team. Like, if they are just a huge pain in the butt to beat in San Antonio. And that's just something that's going to keep them afloat in the standings all season. Dallas, it's been the Luka stuff. And a lot of like kind of early burying of Klay Thompson, even though it has so much more to do with the fact that his ceiling kind of depends on Luka creating advantages for him. And so I'm not super concerned about Klay in the big picture, but like every team has its issues. Denver's like atrociously bad when Jokic is off the floor. The Suns can't do anything without Kevin Durant. The Clippers are actually like one of my big success stories from the season. I was like, the Clippers are going to be a pain in the ass. I swear. It's all these athletes. They're big and athletic on the perimeter. Memphis, same sort of thing with the home road splits. But like that tier in the West that is beyond Oklahoma City and Golden State is like 10 teams deep. And I have no idea what to make of it. Where are you feeling with that group? Do you have them all still in one tier? Are there a couple of teams that are separating themselves for you? How do you feel about that tier in the West right now?
I mean, you didn't mention the team that I think I might like
Houston?
the most outside of Denver. No, the Lakers.
Oh, come on. I'm a Lakers guy.
You just don't like the transition defense is the issue. That'll get cleaned up. Like, that will figure itself out. We've already started to see signs that it's going to figure itself out. Look, I like Denver more than the Lakers, to be clear. Like, I have Denver like in the same tier with the Lakers, but I do like Denver more than the Lakers, to be clear. I was just surprised you didn't mention them. But with the Lakers particularly, like with the Lakers particularly, they have this incredible offensive scheme that is working really, really well in terms of actualizing Anthony Davis. Honestly, I think a big thing that it's doing that people aren't really noticing is minimizing the wear and tear on LeBron throughout the regular season. And that's going to make a big difference, I think, potentially come playoff time. They have Austin Reeves, who's been like hot and cold, it feels like, to start the season. They have Dalton Connect, who looks like a real hit. He's a guy that kind of elevates their starting lineup. Like, it's funny, they've moved him to the bench to bring Rui back into the starting lineup. And I think that's a mistake because when I watch Dalton, I think he's a guy that elevates your best players, but probably isn't a guy yet that can go get his own or, be at his best with bench players in the NBA. So if I was the Lakers, I would have Dalton in the starting lineup in order to maximize both his potential and the players around him offensively. I get the defensive concerns, but the thing about the Lakers is that when you look at all the other teams in the West, Denver included, certainly, and this is removing Oklahoma City, in my opinion. You look at, like Sacramento, who I think just probably doesn't have enough juice in terms of star power, and Minnesota, who, obviously sold a lot of their assets to go get Rudy Gobert, but, has some new assets that they could potentially move if they wanted to. You can look at the Clippers, who probably don't have enough juice unless Kawhi is just like a superstar. Houston's interesting. Houston certainly has more trade capital than anybody in the league if they want to use it. But I think the Lakers have the most realistic avenues toward improving their roster that doesn't involve, like, for instance, Houston having to upend everything it does with a star trade, right? The Lakers can solve their issues. They have 3 first-round picks available to go out and get like a Bruce Brown. They have a bunch of tradable contracts, Rui, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, like whoever you want to bring up across the board. They have all these deals that they can move for players right within their price range. Like, if they can go get Bruce Brown, to me, that's the name that I've been thinking about that like just makes an immense amount of sense. We knew that they liked him. They tried to sign him before he signed that big balloon contract with the Indiana Pacers and then got traded to the Toronto Raptors in the Siakam deal, if I remember correctly. He is the kind of player that'd be perfect for them, like a perimeter defender who processes the game at a super high level, can guard 1 through 4, perfect like crash bang player that would take some wear and tear off of, some of their perimeter players and some of their wings. Like they can go do that. Like Toronto is not contending this year. They would be able to go give up a first round pick for Bruce Brown and it would be fine. And on top of it, the sneaky thing with Bruce Brown is that because his contract is so big right now, he's not going to get that much on his next contract.
Exactly.
You have the early bird rights to be able to retain him as well. I think he's actually like a really sneaky, valuable player on this trade market that because he hasn't played much this season, if at all, if I can remember correctly, I haven't seen him play this year at least. He's someone that he will be a very valuable trade target as long as he's healthy at some point in December, January. Dorian Finney-Smith is a name that makes a lot of sense for the Lakers. I've said like a Dorian Finney-Smith, Daron Sharp deal for the Lakers solves like almost all of their problems to me right now. Solves the backup center issue, solves, going to get a wing who can be switchable defensively. Finney-Smith has taken like a small step back defensively, but not an enormous one. But the guys that are on the market, they have the ability to go make moves to solve their issues is why I like them a lot. And they're already really good is the thing. Like the Lakers are already 11-7, something like that.
10-6.
10-6. Yeah. So they're in a really good position as it is. Like Denver doesn't have the ability really to go out and improve. They've moved all their picks. They would have to give up like a Peyton Watson or a Christian Brown or a Julian Strawther to go make a realistic upgrade. And that's not something they should really be in the market of doing, in my opinion. You can look at, I don't know, Minnesota. Minnesota could go make a realistic upgrade, but more than anything, their season is going to come down to whether or not Anthony Edwards can make decisions and consistently make plays at the end. And I don't know if I trust that yet. They could also just like move off of the Julius Randle experiment and decide to do something totally different with that position, but that upends their season in some way. And that would take some time to try and work through and figure out. So when I say that I really like the Lakers, I like the potential of what the Lakers can be after February, once they eventually inevitably make their move. I think that might be the team that it's Denver because they have the best player in the world. They have Nikola Jokic. But outside of them in the West, like I think the Lakers are the team. Even honestly, I like them more than Golden State in a playoff situation. And I know that might be like sacrilege to hear right now, but I would buy them more in a playoff situation. They have the star power and they have the wherewithal to be able to go do moves. Golden State does as well, though, by the way. Like that's the other thing that we, have mentioned a little bit. Golden State to me is a, DeAnthony Melton and Gary Payton in 2 first-round picks for Cam Johnson move from being ahead of, all these teams potentially. Maybe not Denver because Denver is still really good, but yeah, like that middle tier, like those 3 teams beyond Oklahoma City, Golden State, Denver Lakers, those feel like the 3 teams to me that not only have the star power, but also have the potential to get better and separate themselves from the rest of this group.
Yeah, when I look at, I think a lot of times when we hear people talk about issues with the Lakers, they conveniently gloss over the fact that every team in that tier has major issues. Like the Kings can't guard anybody. Minnesota, I literally hate that roster. Like Ant is like the player that I'm highest on in the next like generation of young basketball players, but I just hate that team's construct so much. And I think it plays directly into a lot of the issues that Ant has had over the years. Don't get me started. San Antonio, ever since I saw how good Stephon Castle has become, I'm like all in on them for the future. Stephon Castle has made me go from hating the Spurs core to like loving the Spurs core, which is like kind of been a funny transformation. I think he's like the 2-way guard. I'll even say I think Stephon Castle's a more interesting prospect than Devin Vassell, in my opinion, at this point.
Oh, for sure.
But like
not even a question to me.
Denver, their bench is atrocious, and Jamal Murray is like literally a shell of himself. It's a real problem. Phoenix, the Nurkic problem is real, and like I just think they're a little redundant in the way that they attack on offense.
But by the way, with them, another team that can't really solve their problems with the trade market, right? They have 1 first-round pick, and really the only functionality that they have is like moving Grayson Allen for a center or moving Nurkic, which I don't think anybody's going to take that contract. So I completely agree with you. Like there are worlds where you could maybe try and figure out how to make something like this function, but I think they're going to really struggle to improve their roster, even though I love what they have been so far with Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm. And that's where Phoenix to me is kind of like, I don't view them as a serious threat for that exact reason that you're explaining. Like all of these teams, whether it's Golden State, Lakers, Denver, I think is a little bit trapped, as you said. Like they have the avenues with which to improve themselves. Houston, the offense in the half court is just too bad. As good as they are, as interesting they are, they're the regular season wins juggernaut this season, and we've seen that year in, year out over the last few years, right? Clippers, obviously, like it's a James Harden and Norman Powell team. It's hard to take them really seriously. I want to zero in on the Lakers for a second because I have a very complicated opinion on them. But before I do that, I would say that I think I have Golden State above first of all, if Golden State played the Lakers in a series tomorrow, I think Golden State would kick their ass. As much as I like the firepower stuff with the Lakers, the mismatch on the perimeter is so dramatic between those two teams. I think it would be a disaster. So like,
to your point that you've talked about a lot, the transition defense would be an enormous issue against Golden State.
Exactly.
So I agree with you on this, that Golden State tomorrow in a 7-game series would beat the Lakers.
But like, I also agree with you that if you start to talk about who can win 4 series between those two teams, it gets a little more complicated because obviously like the Lakers are a bad matchup with Golden State, but they are better matchup for other teams. Right. So like it gets complicated in that regard, but like, I think Golden State I'd put above the Lakers. Denver, I'd certainly put above the Lakers because I actually do think Jamal is going to get Jamal's not as bad as he's been. He's going to be better, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just being glass half full a little too much. You have a little smirk on your face. Maybe you feel otherwise.
It's not that I think he's definitely not. It's just that I don't know. Like when it went for John Wall, it went. You know what I mean? Like the injuries piled up and he just couldn't separate from anybody anymore. And Jamal has the shooting to fall back on, but sometimes for guys, it just goes. And I really hope that's not the case for Jamal. It's just that I don't know if it is what I'm worried about.
To your point, he hit a couple of jumpers against the Knicks where it was a lot of wrist and like snap of the top of the shot where you can tell he was not getting a ton of energy in his shot from the bottom. And some of these possessions where he's running around on the perimeter literally looks like me when I'm like when I've played 7 or 8 pickup games and I'm in the last game of the day and I'm kind of limping around the court. Like that's literally what Jamal Murray looks like in some of these help defense possessions. Like where I'm just like, dude, this is an NBA game. Like you can't be this hobbling around. You know what I mean? But like, I think Denver is a team that I put above them. And then the other team I'd put above the Lakers still at this point is Dallas. In Dallas, I'm a little bit lower on because I do think the trade offer Derrick Jones Jr. did make them less athletic. But even within that context, they do have more athletes than a team like the Lakers does. So like, and I do think Luka will play better in the long run. So like, for me, I have the Lakers kind of sitting as like the 5th best team in the West. There's so many things that I really like about this team. I do think JJ Redick has done a good job of at least bringing a more serious approach on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I love some of the concepts that he's brought in offensively in the sense that last year they were very much like a horns team and like a lot of like you're kind of like just stack and double drag and that sort of thing. It was just a lot of like pretty standard horn stack double drag across the board. JJ's brought in the LeBron and AD as a fulcrum at the top of the key for off-ball guard action stuff, which has been really, really intriguing. And I've liked a lot of that stuff. You mentioned using LeBron. And
by the way, they're getting there like in similar sets. Like they still run a lot of horns actions. They still run a lot of double drag stuff. I think that what JJ has done is particularly weaponize his 2 best players in a different way than what Darvin Ham did. And that's what makes him a much better coach, frankly.
And to your point, I think that's that, and then giving a lot more of the guard reps to Austin has definitely played a part in D'Lo's struggles to this point in the season. He's just been really, really bad. Where it gets complicated for me, and before I even get there, I want to focus in on the starting lineup for a second too. Like I think that Dalton Knecht has to start too, because one, he's just such a natural fit offensively because he's an off-ball scorer. I think this is such a valuable talent in the NBA, a guy that you can like realistically expect 15 to 25 points on any given night without really having to you'll drop stuff for him when he gets hot to kind of keep feeding the hot hand, but he can play within the flow of the game. Right. And the second piece of it is he's just a really good athlete. And this is the team that doesn't have athleticism on the perimeter, even though he has his defensive limitations. Just like him going after a contested rebound or him running his lane in transition or him high pointing some sort of loose ball just looks different than it does for the other Laker guards, which is why I kind of lean more towards the trade you presented to me on the phone the other day, which is the Dorian Finney-Smith, Day'Ron Sharpe type of move. Because like I originally was in the same spot where I was like, D'Lo's the weak link here. You got to go get a Bruce Brown. You got to go get a Derek Jones Jr., something like that to anchor the two. And then Rui's your three. I am in the opposite spot now where I think this needs to be an Austin, Dalton, LeBron, AD team and a traditional 3-and-D guy that you can put on the other team's best perimeter player makes the most sense. That's where Dorian Finney-Smith kind of falls into that spot for me. The tricky part is I don't like a ton of the other options around the league. I think that he's the one guy that makes a lot of sense because like I look at it and I'm like, I kind of like Zaire Williams too, but I just don't think he's a starter. I don't think he shoots the ball well enough. I like Josh Green as a guy that they could potentially go after, but then again, he plays the same position more or less as Dalton Knecht, which kind of presents some issues. So like they're a little bit more limited in terms of the types of players that can go there. Like, does Jeremy Grant want to come in and guard the other team's best player every game? Probably not. Right. So like there are some limitations there, but I do think Dalton at the 2 is the direction they need to go in the long run. My pessimism surrounding the Lakers entirely centers around the perimeter athleticism piece. And I just don't know if it's something they can fix within one season. They will defend better than they have, to be clear. Their defense is in shambles right now for a variety of different reasons, mostly centering around transition and the offensive glass. They're actually like a decent load up half court defense. Like they're okay in the decent half court load up situations. It's rebounding and it is transition. That is entirely perimeter athletes. That's entirely perimeter athletes. Yeah. Like LeBron and AD are 2 of the best defensive rebounders of their generation. And they can't rebound. Like it is a perimeter athlete issue. And so like, I'm with you in the sense that like, if you told me like we were going to be watching OKC, Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, I wouldn't be stunned because I do think that ceiling is in there. Anthony Davis is playing at a top 5 level this year. LeBron isn't even at the level I think he will be in the long run. Like there's a lot to be excited about there. It's just like I've been bitching about this perimeter athleticism thing with the Lakers for 2 years now. Yeah. And Rob just hasn't done anything. Yeah. So like where like it's hard for me to even, it's like Jared Vanderbilt. Really interesting player. But like I haven't watched him play in a basketball game in so long that it's like his all issue, theoretical to this point.
He just doesn't get guarded either. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like nobody guards him. So
I just am concerned. I'm just concerned that Rob is thinking more like this team needs a third star. And like I just don't think Rob is actually aware of the fact that the main weakness of this roster is that they've got a bunch of skill players on the perimeter that can't move or fight.
It's funny that you say that you like the Dorian Finney-Smith move more now because I'm kind of going the opposite way a little bit, where I like that one first originally, probably because it was like my first thought and I was like anchored to it a little bit. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh no, like it's Bruce Brown's the one that makes more sense because he's the better athlete. He's the better defender on the perimeter. Like he's the guy that you can trust to go deal with like 1s, 2s, and 3s. Like even with Denver, right? Like a big part of his role was that he could play the 4 on offense, but could guard perimeter players on defense. And that's kind of what I think they need. Like they need somebody that will like deal with, the 4s and can take on tough matchups, or can like just make high level passing reads and can do different things like that. But on offense, they want Dalton and, Austin to be the 1 and the 2, kind of like you said. On defense, having Bruce allows you to kind of play him at the 2, the 1, the 3, whoever you have to shut down in terms of the matchup. He's just kind of a better defender, I think, at this point than what Dorian Finney-Smith is. But what Finney-Smith adds that he doesn't is he's a fine defender at this point, is he's longer, and he is also a real shooter, which Bruce unfortunately is not at this point. So I go back and forth on it. I think I lean a little bit more toward Bruce Brown now, but like it's a tricky conversation for sure. And they have to make the right decision, because while I talk about their flexibility, they really have like one move that they can make without like totally selling the farm. You know what I mean? If they if they decide to like go all out and, go get somebody, they're giving up like 3 first rounders or whatever. And that doesn't feel like a great plan to me either. So I like what they can do. I like their flexibility. I think they are one player away. Realistically, you can slide D'Angelo Russell to the bench. You hopefully get Jared Vanderbilt back to be able to play defense in stretches for 15 minutes a game, right? They can solve the backup center issue. Like, you can find backup centers for second round picks on the trade market. They're going to have to they can find answers though, I think is why I like them. Like, they can go, they're not a great team right now. They're not, but they can find the answers, I think.
I'm with you in the sense that like I think that trait is such a specifically valuable trait that even if you're great at everything else, it can undercut a team. And it's just, I'm of the opinion that this needs to be kind of like a 2-pronged approach at the deadline, which is like they need to find a starter that they can put at the 2 or the 3, a starting caliber 2-way player. But I also think they need to add some athletes for their bench. And here's the thing. If Jared Vanderbilt gets back and he gets to form and that works out great. If Gabe Vincent gets at least decent at basketball at some point in the next couple of months, that would be great. If Max Christie settles down a little bit, then maybe that's fine. But it's just, I think it's more likely than not that they need a couple of different moves, and I just am not sure that I trust Rob to get it done. So in a weird way, like if you ask me to rank contenders, like I had them coming into the season, I think 8. And like, yeah, they're probably still right around there, 7 or 8, right? Like if I look out east, I'm looking at Boston and Cleveland clearly as a level above, maybe the Knicks too. If I look out west, it's clearly OKC, Golden State, Denver, and Dallas. So like they're somewhere around 7 or 8. But like here'd be the question. Up.
We talked about the Knicks, right? Would you have the Knicks or the Lakers right now?
Oh man.
Because the Knicks are a team that I think everybody would have had ahead of them coming into the year.
Here's the thing. I think the Lakers. Oh, this is such a good question, Sam.
And also, neither of these teams right now can win a title, but the Knicks are going to get back Mitchell Robinson at some point, and the Lakers have moves to be able to make to go get players. Like,
I think I'd still take LeBron AD in a playoff series over a Brunson Bridges and Anunoby group. But like my basketball heart loves the Knicks perimeter athletes, but then again, it just hasn't manifested the way it needs to. So yeah, I think I lean very, very slightly Lakers, but there's a part of me that goes, that's stupid. Why would you say that? So I don't that man, you might have found the 2 teams that I'm most evenly opinionated about. That's crazy.
Yeah,
because like if you told me Lakers or Bucks right now, I'd be like Lakers 10 times out of 10. You know, like if you told me Lakers Suns right now, I'd say Lakers 10 times out of 10. But the teams that are, but yeah, the Knicks to me are Lakers East.
Yeah, I would go.
That loss in Utah was one of the worst losses of the season that any NBA team has had.
That is accurate.
Yeah,
very accurate.